You're also the kind of person who keeps repeating positive affirmations every day, visualizing wealth, success, open doors, abundance, a better life. But somehow, you still remain in the same place, as if something invisible is holding back your walk. If you believe in the law of attraction, that your thoughts shape your reality, then you need to hear this. Are you trying to attract prosperity, but all you've managed to attract is stagnation? Proverbs reveals something very deep about this. It is not only what you think that changes your life, it is what you decide, repeat, speak, tolerate, avoid, and practice every single day. Because thought without wisdom becomes illusion, and desire without discipline becomes frustration. You do not attract wisdom while insisting on the path of foolishness. You do not attract wealth while destroying your own resources. You do not attract success while running away from diligence, correction, and self-control. You do not attract peace while feeding confusion inside your heart. And in this video, you will understand what Proverbs truly reveals about what the world calls the law of attraction. Many people today talk about the law of attraction. They talk about positive thinking, vibration, energy, visualization, focus, positive affirmations, an abundance mindset, and manifestation. And in a way, those words touch something everyone desires, to get out of a stuck life and step into a better life. After all, who doesn't want prosperity, wealth, success, inner peace, open doors, and a new direction? Who doesn't want to feel that life has finally started to align? But there is something very interesting here. Many of these ideas that appear today as something new were already addressed by Proverbs thousands of years ago. Proverbs talks about the mind, words, decisions, paths, habits, character, prudence, diligence, and discipline. It talks about wealth and poverty, success and downfall, wisdom and foolishness, building and destruction. But Proverbs does not present life as emotional magic. It presents life as a moral, spiritual, and practical construction. And this is where many people get lost, because the big question is not only, what do you want to attract? The deeper question is, who are you becoming while you desire it? You want prosperity, but are you developing habits of prosperity? You want success, but are you accepting correction, discipline, focus, and responsibility? Because many people want open doors, but they keep making decisions that close doors. They want peace, but they cultivate anxiety, comparison, emotional impulse, and disorder in the heart. They want abundance, but they do not know how to preserve resources, how to plan, how to wait, or how to say no. They want transformation, but they keep repeating the same invisible patterns that sabotage their own harvest. And then they wonder why life does not change, even after so many promises they have made to themselves. So this video is not here to attack those who talk about the law of attraction. It is also not here to say that thinking does not matter, because thinking matters a lot. The mind can lift a person up or push them even further down. Words can strengthen faith or feed fear. But Proverbs takes us beyond thought and shows that a life changes when the mind is corrected. Words are aligned, habits are disciplined, and decisions begin to follow wisdom. Before we continue, if you believe that the wisdom of Proverbs can change the direction of a life, subscribe to the channel and comment right now, "I choose wisdom." Because today, we are not just going to talk about attracting a better life. We are going to talk about becoming people capable of building a better life. And maybe throughout this video, you will discover that what you used to call bad luck was actually a lack of direction. The law of attraction talks about thought. Proverbs talks about inner direction. Have you ever noticed that many people talk about the law of attraction, positive thinking, and manifestation, but they keep living the same repeated cycles? The person tries to think better, tries to speak better, tries to believe that life will change, but inside there is still fear, comparison, anxiety, and a heavy feeling of being stuck in life. And look, there is no denying it. What dominates your mind does begin to influence your actions. A person who wakes up every day expecting failure ends up making different decisions from someone who still believes they can grow, start over, and build an aligned life. But here comes a deeper truth that Proverbs reveals with great force. The problem is not only the thought that passes through your head, it is the direction that governs your inner life. The law of attraction usually says, change your thoughts to change your reality. But biblical wisdom goes further and says, guard your heart, because from it flow the issues of life. In other words, there is no point in trying to paint the wall if the structure of the house is cracked. You can repeat positive affirmations. You can say you are going to prosper. You can visualize success. But if your heart is still being governed by fear, emotional impulse, envy, and confusion, your decisions will continue taking you to the same place. That is why so many people want prosperity, but feed a mindset of scarcity. They want wealth, but live without discipline, without planning, without prudence, and without self-control. They want success, but remain trapped in habits that sabotage their own construction. It is like trying to clean a river every day without taking care of the spring. You remove the dirt today, but tomorrow it comes back because the source is still contaminated. And Proverbs is saying exactly that. Before correcting the result, you need to correct the source. Before changing the harvest, you need to look at what is being planted inside. So the first great adjustment is this: stop trying to change only what appears on the outside and start protecting what is happening inside you. Guard your heart, filter your thoughts, observe your desires, question your reactions, and pay attention to the invisible patterns that are directing your choices. When a person starts making this course correction, they stop living on autopilot and begin to walk with more wisdom, more focus, and more direction. And maybe this is where the difference between simply thinking positive and living with wisdom begins to become clear. Because in the next point, the issue will not only be what you think, but what comes out of your mouth. The law of attraction talks about words. Proverbs shows that words also build or destroy. Now, if thoughts shape inner direction, words reveal what is happening at that source. The law of attraction talks a lot about positive affirmations, about repeating phrases like, I am prosperous, I am successful, I attract abundance, I manifest my dreams. And there is something important in that. What you repeatedly speak begins to train your mind, influence your emotions, and guide your behaviors. But Proverbs does not treat words as loose phrases thrown into the air. Proverbs shows that the mouth can build a life or destroy a future. The wisdom of Solomon is very direct when it teaches that the tongue has the power of life and death. This means your words are not just sounds, they carry direction, belief, intention, and consequence. When a person constantly says, "Nothing ever works out for me," "I will never get out of this," "Money is not for people like me," "I always ruin everything," they are not just venting. They are training their own mindset to accept defeat, reinforcing invisible patterns, feeding self-sabotage, and building an identity around failure. But here lies a huge difference between positive affirmations and biblical wisdom. Proverbs does not teach empty affirmations. There is no point in repeating, "I am disciplined," if you run from every responsibility. There is no point in repeating, "I am wealthy," if you spend on impulse, ignore planning, and despise prudence. There is no point in saying, "I am successful," if you do not accept correction, cannot handle advice, and keep making wrong decisions. Words have power, yes, but words without alignment become theater. Words without action become illusion. Words without wisdom become self-deception. It is like putting a beautiful sign in front of a broken house. The sign may say mansion, but if the structure is cracked, if the foundation is weak, if everything inside is abandoned, that beautiful word cannot sustain the building. In the same way, many people speak prosperity, but live without diligence. They speak growth, but remain in the same habits. They speak life change, but do not change the path. So the necessary adjustment is not just to speak beautifully, it is to speak with truth, responsibility, and direction. Because when your words align with your actions, something begins to change, and then we enter the next point. It is not enough to speak about wealth. You need to understand how prosperity is built. The law of attraction talks about prosperity. Proverbs teaches that prosperity requires diligence. The law of attraction talks a lot about prosperity, abundance, wealth, open doors, opportunities, and a better life. And honestly, who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to wake up with peace, pay the bills without suffocating, build something solid, see their family doing well, and feel that life is finally coming out of stagnation? But the problem begins when a person wants to attract a harvest without planting a routine. They want the result of a wise life, but they keep living with the habits of a disorganized life. Proverbs does not deny prosperity. On the contrary, it talks a lot about wealth, work, growth, and results. But biblical wisdom is clear. Prosperity is not only something that comes to you, it is something built with diligence, discipline, prudence, planning, and consistency. Proverbs says that lazy hands make a person poor, but diligent hands bring wealth. This does not mean every financial struggle comes from laziness, because there are real crises, injustices, and losses. But it does mean that when a person lives without direction, without focus, and without responsibility, they begin to sabotage their own construction. Look at practical life. Do you want to prosper? Then you need to look at your schedule, your spending, your habits, the way you work, and your willingness to learn. There is no point in only visualizing wealth if you do not organize your finances, improve your skills, take care of opportunities, and do the basics well every day. In the United States, many people understand the phrase, show up every day. Show up every day, do the work, improve a little, and keep going even when no one is applauding. This is very close to what Proverbs was already teaching centuries ago. The diligent, consistent, and wise hand builds a better life. It is like the ant in Proverbs. It does not wait for applause. It does not live by emotional motivation. It does not depend on someone pushing it, but it works with preparation, direction, and long-term vision. While many people want instant manifestation, Proverbs teaches patient construction. While many people want quick wealth, Proverbs teaches sustainable success. So maybe what is missing is not more positive thinking, but intelligent work, routine, focus, and self-control. Because when desire meets diligence, life begins to leave the field of fantasy and enter the field of harvest. But there is still another point many people avoid. Success also requires counsel and correction. The law of attraction talks about success. Proverbs teaches that success needs counsel and correction. The law of attraction usually says that you need to believe in yourself, visualize success, maintain an elevated mindset, and not allow anyone to steal your energy. And there is something beautiful in that, because a person without faith in the future will hardly move towards something better. But Proverbs shines light on a point many people prefer to avoid. Believing in yourself helps, but it does not replace counsel, correction, and humility to learn, because a person can be full of confidence and still be walking in the wrong direction. This is one of the greatest dangers of modern life, confusing pride with self-esteem. A person says they are protecting their peace, but sometimes they are only running from a truth they need to hear. They say they are blocking negative energy, but maybe they are rejecting a necessary correction. They say nobody understands their vision. But maybe they are not seeing their own repeated patterns, their wrong decisions, their lack of prudence, and their resistance to change. And here Proverbs confronts with love. Plans fail when there is no counsel, but with many advisors they can prosper. Think of a GPS. When you miss a turn, it does not scream at you, humiliate you, or tell you your life is over. It simply recalculates the route. Biblical wisdom works that way. It does not come to crush you. It comes to redirect you before the mistake becomes too expensive. A mentor, wise counsel, a word of correction, an honest conversation. All of that can be the point that separates a stuck life from a new direction. Sometimes a person does not need more motivation. They need someone mature enough to say, "This path will destroy you if you keep going." So, if you want prosperity, wealth, growth, and sustainable success, stop treating every correction as an attack. Listen to those who have walked further than you. Observe those who live with more discipline, more diligence, more self-control, and more inner peace. Read Proverbs as someone receiving instruction for real life, not as old sayings with no application. Because the path of the wise is not made only of positive thinking, it is made of teaching, adjustment, responsibility, and course correction. And when you start accepting direction, you realize that another factor also shapes your destiny, the environment and the people walking with you. The law of attraction talks about energy. Proverbs talks about environment and company. Today, many people say, protect your energy. Stay away from bad vibes. Surround yourself with abundance. And in a way, this points to a real truth. The environment influences your mindset, your habits, your decisions, and even your courage to grow. But Proverbs uses a more direct, more practical and deeper language. It does not speak only about energy. It speaks about company, counsel, paths, and influence. Because you do not become like only what you desire. You become like what you follow every day. Biblical wisdom teaches that whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but whoever associates with fools suffers harm. This is strong because it reveals one of the invisible patterns that keeps people trapped in stagnation the most. They want to change their lives, but they remain surrounded by environments that reinforce the old version of themselves. They want prosperity, but live around conversations of scarcity. They want discipline, but stay near people who mock consistency. They want success, but absorb advice from those who have never built anything with wisdom, prudence, and direction. And maybe you have already lived this. You decide to save money, and someone says you are exaggerating. You decide to study, and someone says it will not help. You decide to take care of your health, and someone laughs. You decide to seek a more aligned life, and someone tries to pull you back into old cycles. This does not mean hating people, thinking you are better than anyone, or abandoning everyone coldly. It means understanding that not everyone who loves you knows how to lead you toward your purpose. Some people are good for your heart, but terrible for your direction. It is like trying to light a fire in the rain. You may have fire, willpower, positive thinking, plans, and even faith, but if the environment keeps putting everything out, you will get tired before you see the flame grow. Many times, a person does not need more positive affirmations. They need to choose better what they listen to, who they follow, who they talk to, and what kind of counsel they allow into their heart. Because when you change your company, you change your inner atmosphere. And when you change your inner atmosphere, you begin to see that there is another silent enemy on the path: desire without self-control. The law of attraction talks about desire. Proverbs teaches self-control. The law of attraction talks a lot about desire. Desire with clarity, visualize intensely, feel as if it is already yours. And there is something powerful about having vision, because a person without desire hardly moves from where they are. But Proverbs shows a truth that many people do not want to face. Desire without self-control can become destruction. Not every desire deserves to be followed. Not every impulse is a sign. Not every opportunity is a blessing. And not everything that looks attractive is leading you to a better life. Biblical wisdom compares a person without self-control to a city with broken down walls. In ancient times, a city without walls was vulnerable. Any enemy could enter, any attack could dominate it, any threat could cause destruction. And that is how many people live on the inside. They want prosperity, but they shop out of anxiety. They want success, but they get distracted by any quick pleasure. They want wealth, but they do not control spending, emotions, and decisions. They want an aligned life, but they let any momentary desire take the wheel. This is one of the great invisible patterns of self-sabotage. A person is not defeated only by lack of opportunity, but by lack of inner government. They even know what they need to do, but the emotion of the moment speaks louder. They know they need to save money, but they buy to relieve anxiety. They know they need to study, but they trade focus for distraction. They know they need to wake up early, but they negotiate with laziness. They know they need to distance themselves from certain situations, but they keep going back to what breaks their peace, their discipline, and their direction. So maybe the most urgent adjustment is not to desire more strongly, but to learn to say no with more wisdom. Say no to impulse. Say no to useless spending. Say no to the distraction that steals your future. Say no to the relationship that pulls you down. Say no to the hurry that destroys planning. Because manifestation without self-control becomes fantasy. Positive thinking without discipline becomes frustration. Desire without direction becomes a trap. And when you understand this, you begin to realize that life does not respond only to what you want, but to what you plant every day. The law of attraction talks about manifestation. Proverbs talks about planting and harvesting with wisdom. The word manifestation has become very popular. Many people want to manifest money, love, success, peace, opportunities, open doors, and a new life. And there is nothing wrong with desiring a better reality. The problem is, when a person wants to manifest a harvest they never planted. They want the result of someone disciplined, but live like someone impulsive. They want the peace of a wise person, but keep choosing foolish paths. They want wealth, but despise planning, prudence, and consistency. Proverbs does not treat manifestation as magic. Proverbs treats life as a path, planting and harvest. Biblical wisdom shows that diligent plans lead to profit, while haste leads to poverty. This is deep because it places responsibility where many people place excuses. Your life does not respond only to what you desire, nor only to what you speak, nor only to what you visualize. Your life begins to respond to the path you choose, the habits you repeat, and the decisions you sustain when no one is watching. It is like putting an address into the GPS and driving in the opposite direction. You can believe in the destination, talk about the destination, imagine what it will be like when you get there. But if you keep turning onto the wrong streets, you will not arrive. Many people are doing this with their own lives. They say they want prosperity, but they follow the path of waste. They say they want transformation, but they remain on the path of procrastination. They say they want an aligned life, but they feed the heart with fear, comparison, distraction, and hurry. And then they wonder why the harvest looks so different from the desire. So maybe your life is not stuck because God forgot about you. Maybe it is stuck because some invisible patterns are taking you exactly to the place you say you do not want. And here the turnaround begins. When you align desire, plan, action, and diligence, your life begins to change direction. You stop only asking for open doors and begin to become someone prepared to walk through those doors. Because in the end, Proverbs reveals that God is not only interested in what you want to receive, He is also forming the kind of person you need to become in order to sustain what you are asking for. The law of attraction talks about thought, words, focus, energy, and manifestation. But Proverbs reveals something deeper, more solid, and more transforming. Proverbs does not only teach you to desire a better life, it teaches you to become a wiser, more mature, and more aligned person. Because a better life is not sustained only by positive thinking, it is sustained by wisdom. You may desire prosperity, but you need to abandon habits of scarcity. You may desire success, but you need to accept correction. You may desire peace, but you need to guard your heart. You may desire wealth, but you need to develop diligence, prudence, and self-control. You may desire a new season, but you need to stop feeding the old patterns that keep taking you back to the same place. Proverbs does not cancel the importance of the mind, it deepens it. It shows that thought matters, but character also matters. Speech matters, but action also matters. Faith matters, but discipline also matters. Desire matters, but the path matters even more. So maybe the question is not only, what am I trying to attract? Maybe the real question is, what kind of person are my choices building? Because when wisdom governs the heart, words change. When words change, decisions change. When decisions change, habits change. And when habits change, the path changes. And when the path changes, the harvest changes. Maybe today you are realizing that your life does not need more illusion. It needs direction. It does not need more beautiful phrases without practice. It needs a course correction. It does not need only positive affirmations. It needs a renewed mind, a protected heart, and an aligned routine. God is not only interested in what you want to receive, He is forming who you need to become. And when you choose wisdom, you begin to build a life that does not depend on luck, but on principles. If this video spoke to you, subscribe to this channel and comment right now. I choose wisdom over illusion. And if you want to keep learning how Proverbs can teach you to live with more wisdom, turn on the notifications so you do not miss the next messages. Share this video with someone who is trying to change their life but still does not understand where they are going wrong. And remember, when wisdom enters, direction changes. And when direction changes, life begins to change too.